All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. My name's Leah. I'm with Sue, as usual.
Hi,
We're joined by two of our other amazing women. We're joined by Bella and Kaylee.
Hi,
Hi.
girl.
Hi.
Just before we start, though, I want to say to all of our new subscribers, thank you so much because we're just a group of women and a few men who are sick of what's happening to our rights in Queensland in particular. And the more people we can get our message out to, the better. And the more people who can actually see what we're up against as well. So yeah, we really appreciate all the new subscribers.
It's been great.
So how are you feeling, ladies?
I guess a bit shell shocked. Not that I'm surprised by their behaviour, because I knew, because the police gave them permission to basically do it. If you want me to start from, have you introduced the two? Oh, yeah, you did, didn't you? Yeah, so
Let's just say we did a speakers corner, our monthly speakers corner.
yeah. And so, yeah, we put in what's called a notice of intention, and that needs to be approved to be an authorised gathering. And it's under the Peaceful Assembly Act of 1992. And in June this year, I was speaking to a policewoman, and she told me there was a loophole in the legislation that allows for multiple groups to apply for and be accepted for the same location, same time and same day, which to me does not make sense.
And who told you that, sorry?
It was a policewoman in the area that allocates police resources to events being held, such as protests, that sort of thing. And anyway, so we put in a notice of intention with the Brisbane City Council late June, 21st of June. It was approved. And then of Monday of last week, I get a phone call from this same policewoman saying that the trans activists have lodged a notice of intention and it's been accepted for the same location, same time and same day. And I just said, you are putting us in danger because of the hostility from these people. And she said, can't be helped, it's the legislation. But on Wednesday, I got another call from another police officer, and he said the place that we had, which was Redcliffe Place, they've now given it to another group, which I just sort of thought, okay, well, they know the trans activists are going to come and protest. There's businesses around. It was a bad look for them. And I was told, but we could have Queen's Gardens Park. And so because we had a valid NOI, notice of intention, it was transferred to Queen's Gardens Park. But you have to lodge a notice of intention 5 working days before the event is due to happen. So when I was told this last Wednesday, it wasn't 5 days. So they did not have a notice of intention. It was refused. So they would have had to reapply and they would never have been accepted because of the 5-day timeframe. So I rang up Brisbane City Council on the Thursday, and I just wanted to know. I spoke to the person there that we deal with, and I said, what is it in the legislation that allows multiple groups to be approved at the same time, same location, same day? And he said, we don't. We never allow multiple notice of intention. And he said, you got your notice of intention through first and it was accepted. They lodged their notice of intention and it was rejected.
Huh.
So then I said to him, why would the police call me and tell me that it's been accepted? And he said, I have no idea why they did that, because there was never one that was accepted. So then I rang this same policewoman, and I said, I just got off the phone from the Brisbane City Council, and they said that the notice of intention wasn't accepted. And she basically said, oh, they don't know what they're talking about, blah, 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 And then I said, well, what in the legislation allows for multiple bookings? And she said to me, I'm not going to argue about the legislation. And I said, but I've been told there's a loophole in the legislation. I'm just trying to find out where it is because I can't see it. Because usually with legislation, you've also got policy, which determines how you apply the legislation. So
and just separate to that, you're a woman who's just wants to be safe.
Yeah.
So you're asking questions to the woman who you would assume could give you the answers to these questions, a policewoman.
Yep.
Because you know that the men that are going to come and stop you from speaking are violent and aggressive.
Yeah, and that's my background. I worked a lot with legislation and policy. I was a policy advisor before I left the government when I retired. So I was trying to work out what is it? I'm told there's a loophole. Where's the loophole? Anyway, that's when she said, I'm not going to argue with you about the legislation. I'm thinking, I'm not arguing, I'm asking a question. Anyway, then she raises her voice and says to me, her voice was so other people in the area could hear what she was about to say. And she said, I will not tolerate you yelling abuse down the phone at me. And I just went, oh, my God, are you kidding? I said, I've not raised my voice and I certainly haven't abused you. So I just thought, okay, here's some corruption. Why would anyone do that? But they wanted others to hear that made me sound like I was abusing her.
Mm.
So there was no way we could get anywhere with her. And, you know, I just thought, well, can we trust the police? And, yeah, so then we turn up at Queen's Gardens Park where we've got the approved NOI. But the strange thing was when I told her they never had a notice of intention, it should have been put in the system that they didn't have a notice of intention, but they didn't do that. So the police there on the day believed there was a notice of intention, but there wasn't.
Mm.
So they put us at risk. And exactly what I said happened, because before I knew they didn't have a valid NOI, they could be anywhere in the park and they could be in our face. They could stand there and be in our face, because when they had an unauthorised gathering, when we had approval, the police could keep them at bay. But with the notice of intention being approved, that just meant that, and that's what I said, they're hostile towards us. There's going to be violence. My dogs want to get out the door.
Yeah.
The thing I found was strange was when we got moved location and they told you that they would tell the trans activists that we were moving, and I just thought there's something that's really going on here, because if they know through previous events how they can be, and they've witnessed it because the police have been there, why would they want to tell them where we are if we're in danger for this?
Well, the thing is, though, the officer I spoke to on the Wednesday said they had an NOI approved, and he said to me, we're going to have to tell your friends, you know, he's being sarcastic, that the move is to Queen's Gardens Park. So I were telling them where we were going, but it just didn't make sense. You know, I believe that we were intentionally put in harm's way. I'm not saying the whole of the police force is corrupt, but there's something very strange when Brisbane City Council said that there was never a notice of intention approved. It was declined. So why did I get a call saying it had been approved? That doesn't make sense.
No, none of it makes a lot of it. I'm just thinking I can't work a lot of this out. Maybe it's designed to make us feel like we're going mad.
Yeah, it's very frustrating though when you know they're wrong. But so the police officers there on the day believed the other people had an NOI, the terrorists. So it's not their fault that they were told there was. But it was good though, Leah, because you explained that. But you want to tell everyone about how it started on Sunday?
Well, it started well. They weren't there, but we knew that they were at the previous location because they hadn't got the memo that we'd moved. So it started off all right.
They sent the scouts out, didn't they? Because they realised we never turned up.
Yeah, we saw a couple of the blue fringes checking us out, and one of them was sitting right next to us, and she actually sat there for a while, didn't she?
Yeah. And she thought she had us fooled, but as we came into the park, we looked at each other.
She knew who she was.
Yeah.
She knew who she was, and she came over and asked questions about something random. And do you know what? We were so polite and just normal because that's the kind of people we are.
Yeah.
Even though we knew who she was.
Yeah.
I start speaking, and then from around the corner, I just see this stampede of like, mental illness coming towards me.
What do we do? What do we do? You hateful, spineless bigots are trying to hurt people. Children are killing themselves because of your rhetoric. It's not a lie. Children are committing suicide. People are being bashed in the streets because of your rhetoric. Men in dresses, what dress?
You're a man.
Fascist.
You're a man. You are a man.
Before we get to that, remember when David and I went to the police station because no police turned up? So they told us there would be police in attendance, and then we're sitting there, and usually the police arrive about half an hour before. God. Sorry. This is what I do all day, let them in and yeah, so the police didn't turn up, and it was about 10 minutes before we were due to start. And
well,
so
what was going through your minds, ladies, because you were there with us.
Yeah.
You were there from the beginning, weren't you?
I did think the police would turn up. I was surprised that they weren't there when we started. I was surprised because they have shown up previously. From the police perspective, while we're still talking about them, I mean, to a certain extent, I understand so many of us are in workplaces now, or even at university, even at school, and the powers that be from above and all of the policies are pushing all of this stuff down. So, and there's real consequences for people if they don't comply. And I can imagine, you know, for young people particularly, that can be very intimidating. I think, you know, for us, we are just, I don't know, we're just not going to comply. But maybe Kaylee could speak about how the police hands are actually tied to a certain extent because of the policies and what's happening in that workplace.
Yeah, Kaylee, I've got a question. Do they literally get told you can't do anything? When you go, do you have like a briefing in the morning and then you're told?
To a certain extent, there would be who you can, you know, there's always people that are put above other people. That's just because policing really is politics, right? At the end of the day. And I mean, none of us are surprised about the trans activists, right? Because they're a group of very violent men that abuse women because they will not comply to them. So I'm not surprised about that. And I was a police officer for quite a long time. And so that really is where I'm very concerned, more so than the trans activists, which we know are going to be violent towards us. So, and it starts off before we even plan it, as Sue mentioned. And then we know they're going to turn up and there's no police there to protect us. So Sue goes to speak to a police officer, and a woman who is going to be potentially a victim is told by Queensland Police to go away.
And we were told that police would be in attendance, and there's no police. At the moment. Okay, what event is it? It's Women Up Queensland event. It's just it's called Speaker's Corner.
Okay. It's not at Speaker's Corner though.
Yeah, as soon as police are available, they'll come there.
We're at risk.
Okay, yeah, so is everybody else in Queensland.
What you want to hear from someone?
No, it's good.
And then as predicted, they turn up and they were very violent to us. Like, I got assaulted and Bella got assaulted physically, and they come around the corner screaming, invading our spaces, and there was 2 police officers who were waiting on the corner, and they'd walked up a little bit, and I walked up to them very quickly and I said, will you please protect us? And these 2 male police officers, who are fully trained, have capsicum sprays, have their gun, have handcuffs, have public order training, looked at me and said, there is too many of them, no.
Wow.
And literally turned away from, what was it, 8 women, 8 of us standing there? I was just so disgusted, and something has to be done about that, because they are swearing an oath to protect the public. Yeah.
Are you going to help us? Are you going to help us? They're walking away. The police are walking away. Are you going to help us? Are you going to help us? Sorry? This is our... They've come to attack us. Can you please move them away?
Sorry?
Can you please move them away? We have a permit to be here. They do not.
They do.
The Queensland government is espousing this about violence against women.
Exactly. Except when you go there as a woman and they don't like what you say, you're treated like a piece of crap and pretty much told to piss off. We're not helping you because we don't like what you're saying.
Yeah.
But then it gets worse, okay? So then some police officers eventually turn up after Bella was smashed in the head. I was pushed to the ground. I had a bruise on my head from it. And as a police officer, I'm not a tactical police officer, but every police officer is trained in public order, okay? And I've attended quite a few protests and rallies in my time as a police officer. And the very, very first thing you are taught is to hold the line. Because once you lose the line, you've lost. Yeah. Okay? Now, not only did they not hold the line, they were standing behind us.
Yes.
And beside us as scattered individual police officers.
Stonewall was a riot! We will not be quiet! Stonewall was a riot! We will not be quiet! Stonewall was a riot! We will not be quiet! Stonewall was a riot! We will not be
Dismal failure of this police force.
I'm wondering if it's policy or absolute incompetence.
And that's my question. So it comes down to it's 2 things, right? It's either complete incompetence or we're living in a 2-tier policing system, which we constantly see in the UK, with women being arrested for putting stickers in places, but violent trans activists not being arrested. And it is terrifying if that is the case.
But they didn't even attempt to go and talk to them. They could have come down where we were and said, listen here, you're being disorderly. They didn't even attempt to do that. You know, they didn't have to get into a violent scuffle. They could have just said to them, pull your head in.
Well, these police officers told me to go and move them.
Yeah.
Do you know the only time I saw them jump into action was when that young lad tried to pull that flag out of Blue Boy's hands.
Where do we hide? Police!
Yes!
Guys, break it up.
Go on, take it! Police!
Guys, let's break it up. How can you break it up, guys? Break it up, guys.
Boys!
World star!
Bro, don't tell me to relax, it's my fucking friend. Fuck you, bro. You perpetrate this kind of fucking violence and then complain about it.
That was the only time I saw that, you know, somebody's going near them. Let's protect them.
They weren't with us. They were people that were walking through the park.
That's right. Total people off the street.
And then they turn around, Blue Boy and his mate, turn around and blame us.
You fucking fascist pieces of shit! You're fascist pieces of shit! This is what you do! This is what you do! Violence!
But it wasn't just that. I mean, there was a number of people with representative shirts on, which I thought it just shows either total, you know, they are not, have no sense of awareness of what they're portraying, or they're just so narcissistically arrogant that they don't care. One of them had on some type of union shirt, and that just reminds me that, you know, we're talking about policies in the police force, in people's workplaces, at unis, at schools. You try going to a union for help, because I've actually done that, sat down and had a chat to where exactly do we stand with our rights in the workplace, and we don't.
They were coming, the plan in their head was to cause maximum intimidation to us, and they approached us from behind. Men. A man was leading the charge. It was just so symbolic of what they do. They just completely took over our space.
Yeah, they pushed us out.
This is what they do.
And that's what I said would happen. I told the policewoman, I told the policeman that rang on the Wednesday, I told the police minister, and we were just ignored.
And they stood there when they got there, and almost like they had conquered our space with their flags.
Yes.
And they were like
the moon landing.
Like, yeah, it was, that's exactly what it was. And then that's when I looked around and spotted the 3 policemen. And I just couldn't believe what they, it was like they were part of a cult too.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't give me anything. They just, one of them just looked straight through me when I was asking him questions.
I know the one you mean. There was one that was really cold and distant.
Now, surely a police, if you're to be an effective policeman or woman, you have to be able to engage with the public, surely.
Do you think this is acceptable? Seriously, we're just having our event and they come and do that to us. Like, these are blokes. These are men.
So can we go and stand over there and be left alone?
Yeah. Do you want to?
So we'll go back over there.
You want to try that?
Yeah. Try what? Surely you should be moving them, not us. Is it our job to move?
But also, in the past, the police, it didn't matter how many, they didn't even attempt, they did nothing. They just left us to be assaulted by these people and stood back and watched. That's what I can't believe. They stood back and watched what was happening.
I've never experienced anything like that in my.
I was going to say, was this ever a thing when you were in police?
Absolutely not. We're trained. We're armed. We work in pairs. We're always in twos. You'll go to most jobs just as 2, and if it gets hairy, then that's what you signed up for. That's what you signed oath for. And I just think that we also need to make people aware who may be voting for Green or the Labors that there were, for all Labor's intentions of, we need to stop violence against women, there were Labor supporters with their shirts on in there. There were union supporters and there were Green supporters, and those people were cheering on these men, physically attacking us.
Yeah.
Labor hasn't come out and said anything, hasn't criticised it. I mean, this is the future for us under these parties.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got to get rid of them, because
I mean, you could imagine, you know, we're talking about us, where we've all slightly older women, but you know, you imagine this scenario for your young girls, teenagers or young girls. They're out and about. They come across these men. They can't even approach a policeman to help them. That's what we've taught our children to do. You find a policeman. I'm sorry, my dog's attacking the dog bowl. So, you know, it's, what do we do? What do we say to children these days? Where can they go for safety if they can't rely on the people that our tax dollars and our system of governance have put in place to secure public order. That's what their job is. That's the whole of their job description.
I actually approached the police officers and I recorded it because I got my phone, but I didn't record their faces, but I recorded their equipment. I didn't realise. And I just said, are you aware of the Public Assembly Act and what it says? And they said, oh, this, I don't know which police officer, and he said, no. And I said, it says to maintain public order and public safety. And I said, does this look like public order to you? And it was just like,
the most unbelievable response by the police officer to you then was, what would you like us to do about it? Are you serious? You are the trained police officer.
Yeah, that's right. He did. And I said, move them on. But they weren't going to move them on. We had to be moved on. But then they gave us a promise that they would keep them at a distance. How long did that last? When we moved to a different part of the park?
Well, it didn't last at all because he was right behind Anna when she was speaking, right inches away from her.
Oh, here he is again. Get away.
Get away.
Yeah, I felt like I had to stand guard of Anna because the police weren't there, and this is where the line should have been held, right?
Yes.
There's no line. They weren't behind us or standing with us. They were just scattered, just looking at us. And I said to one of them, you saw that. He just pushed me to the ground. And he looked at me and shrugged his shoulders.
Wow.
I am so disappointed in Queensland Police.
It just, what was the point of putting us with our back to the wall, which was pretty obvious way of, making sure that behind was secure, when they didn't bother to secure it? That blue idiot just kept going around and around and around that to come right back in, right behind Anna.
They have no fear of the police whatsoever. And the police officer said, do you realise you've just assaulted a police officer?
You assaulted a police officer. I assaulted a police officer. Hey, Mom, I assaulted a police officer. They're going to charge me for that in court. Do it, dude. Do it. Charge me for that in court, dude. Why are you so aggressive to me? You came up to me and hit me with your flag. We've been pretty lenient. I asked you not to 3 times.
Because they've got the legal observers. Those people in the fluorescent vests weren't our people. They bought legal observers to watch what the police were doing. So, and when we were talking to the police, one of them was standing very near us, listening to everything that was said. So I'm wondering whether or not they are there to watch the police, to take it back to whoever, because the police didn't do their job in, hammering us. But they did leave us completely vulnerable. It was just mind-blowing. It was, 48 minutes of hell.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, we were just talking before, and it's like we've had this before, so we're getting used to it, which is just ridiculous, just a mind-blowing thing.
But we haven't had them in our face like that, though. They've been there yelling abuse and drowning us out, but that was because the police, for some reason, gave them.
I just looked at them. It was like looking at toddlers. It was like looking at 2-year-olds who couldn't get their own way. That's what they do. They've got their flags, like their blankies.
Yeah.
They've got they've got their fancy dress, like little costumes on. The children, they just want to be dressing up and throwing tantrums. And if they don't get their own way, they're gonna make sure that they get their own way.
Yeah.
The lack of self-awareness is unbelievable, isn't it? Just astounding. They illegally come and attack citizens peacefully assembling, as we have a right to be in this country. scream us down, threaten us, physically abuse us, try and intimidate us, but then stand back and yell that we're the fascists and we're the authoritarian. And the lack of self-awareness.
Well, I truly believe that they are mentally ill. There wasn't
100%.
one that I saw that I thought, oh, you're just a regular person, because they're very dishevelled looking, they're dirty looking, they cannot regulate their emotions whatsoever.
What about that 17-year-old?
They're deluded.
The 17-year-old that said he was more of a, he said to you, you're more of a man than what I am.
You're more of a man than I am, cunt. Look at yourself.
It just comes across as entitlement that, you know, when was the last time these young boys were told no? How long has it been? And then you pump them full of hormones and drugs, and you make a big fanfare about them at school or at university when they say, oh, I'm a different slice of cheese this week. And everybody goes, oh, wow, that's just fabulous. Aren't you special? I don't think they hear the word no at all. And that's why they just get so enraged.
You will never get to speak without being shouted down.
So they're not just young boys, you know, but it's always the older males that control the young ones that they bring with them.
There was one very, very questionable older balding man there.
Yeah.
Thinking, why do you want to hang around with these?
The tall, skinny one?
It wasn't skinny, no. He was dressed in leather.
They're just symbolise, the older ones are just everything creepy that you would never want to encounter in a public bathroom or in a change room. You would never, ever want to come across that. You get the hairs on your arms standing up straight away when you're around them. They're not well. These are very, very unhealthy people. And the rage that some of them get, I don't know much about the medical side of it, but surely that has to affect it.
And you're right, Bella. They're full of rage. And because they're full of rage, they're very dangerous.
They're full of rage and they're so envious of us women as well.
Yeah.
Imagine though, like the Queensland government has not educated the public on what sex self-ID means, that any man, regardless, doesn't need to change anything, walks into a change room, a toilet, and women that don't know that this law has come in, look at them and challenge them. What the hell are they going to do to these women? They'll thump them. You know, it's so dangerous. And the government is negligent, not putting out an education campaign that men are now allowed to be in women's spaces. And remember, we can't ask them that if they've changed their sex marker on their birth certificate. So you just have to accept any male into your space. So, you know, and then they go, oh, if a man says he's a woman, they no longer have male pattern violence. It's opened the door to every single male that's a male predator. And to say that, no, if they identify as a woman, when all they have to do is say, I'm a woman, it's insane. And then everyone is at risk.
Yeah, and to make us, we have absolutely no recourse. We can't even phone the police.
Yeah, we can't.
And they come out with these BS stats. Oh, 70% of women don't care. And it's like, no, we're too terrified to say anything. Like, it's
like 90.
We're not going to say that. We're in a vulnerable position as if we're going to tell that giant lunatic to get out. Like, we're terrified.
Yeah.
You know, I think that there's still a lot of women that do not know that self-ID has been brought into Queensland. And there's still a lot of people, both men and women out there, who don't know anything about the Tickle versus Giggle case.
Yeah.
They don't know what's going on legally in Australia because of the media. The media are so responsible. I mean, the government is ultimately responsible for bringing in these changes. Greens and Labor, we're talking to you. You're the ones who have stripped away women's rights. But it's the media who have suppressed it. And we're talking about policies in the police, in corporations, in universities, everywhere like that. We know it's in media as well. We know that people, the cost of living's high. People are worried about their mortgages. They're worried about their jobs if they speak out, the non-compliance. But there's people out there who aren't doing it as tough, who can be braver, who can go, no, stuff it. I will not be forced to lie. I will not go against what I know is true, what my values are, and I won't have my children lied to. I want my children brought up with evidence-based truth. We want those people to stand up.
And the one thing that really annoyed me was Blue Boy kept saying that our ideology was dangerous.
Yes.
Black women, black Olympian athletes have to take hormone therapy because of your ideology.
We base our beliefs on scientific facts, on biology. So they've twisted, because they're the ones with the ideology. They twist everything and reflect it back onto us. Anything they say to us, like we're fascists, we're Nazis, we're bigots, that's what they are. Everything. They take everything and change it.
When I was at university, everyone knows I'm a lesbian. When I was at university,
What?
I was part of the LGB alliance there, no T, and that's the early 90s.
Yeah.
And there isn't one civil rights movement that they haven't tried to appropriate, if you think about it, which is terrifying. But anyway, I guess one more thing about this, the two-tier policing, because obviously it's the policing thing that's really upset me. It just got me to think about, reverse the situation, have us turn up and attack them and attack police. Do you think that we would not at the moment, still be sitting in a cell and the media would have this all over the news?
They would. The interesting thing, though, at our when we had finished, Caro from our group, because she often goes over and she talks to them, and she went over to the trans activists when we'd finished our event, and the police went over and said she would be charged with a breach of the peace if she didn't walk away from them. Yet there was no conflict. So, so she was threatened with that.
Crazy. Reverse situation, all of us women would have been arrested and the media would have been out there in 3 seconds. Like, it's disgraceful. And this government is just a disgrace.
And Edie last year at the Kelly J. Keane event, she was taking a photo of the trans activists from a distance, and a police officer, he was massive, he wasn't young, and he had a rainbow lanyard on, and he threatened Edie with arrest.
So on that, did somebody ask you, Sue, to stop filming? Was that a policeman or just a random?
It was just one of them, and he came over and he said, "You're filming." It's a public place.
As if we're going to stop filming. We all had our cameras out.
Right. And I just said, I don't know what the law is. I just thought, who the hell do you think you are? You know, we've got so much evidence of what they are, and hinged, they're unsafe, and they're a danger to society. And they've got to be stopped. And if they think with what they did on Sunday, we're going to stop, we're not stopping.
No way. We have, the different rights that you all spoke about, with Anna talking about, rape in marriage, that they were a part of having that made illegal. There's just so many things we've had to fight for to be able to enjoy public life, to be able to support ourselves, and, to be able to have property rights. And you might think that these are just from such a long, long time ago, but there's many parts of the world where women don't have any of those rights, and they are actively trying to take them away from us here in the West.
In the scheme of things, it wasn't that long. Like, women couldn't have a credit card until the was it in the 1980s or something? Or was it 1904?
Superannuation wasn't equal.
Well,
And look, on a very personal note, my mother, who she would be 100 this year, so it is a little bit of a while ago. So just to show how relevant it is, her father left everything to the eldest son because that's what they did. He had an Irish Catholic background. So she was left with nothing. So women just didn't count. And you're still the property of men in some countries around the world. You know, you can't do anything without permission. We are not going to go backwards in this country. There is not one day that goes by that we will ever accept men in our spaces. We just won't. We will fight this. And the more Australian women and men that find out that you have legislated away our rights, and the more people who see what goes on, there will be changes. We will push back. And the elections are coming.
Yeah, we've only got, was it July, August, September, 3 months until the election.
And what are the predictions for that?
LNP landslide. So
what LNP is like Conservative for...
Yeah, Liberal National Party. So the Liberal National Party in federal government is called the Coalition, but in Queensland it's the LNP. So we need them to step up and stop this because we're not going to put up with it.
The most appalling thing, apart from the physical violence and just the fact that we were abandoned right from the start and that men were allowed to come right up into our faces screaming abuse right in our face, was after we regathered and the police had more numbers there and they spoke about where we can move to continue talking, and we set up, the fact that that big, burly, sweaty, as you pointed out, revolting, deluded man could get right up behind the speaker after all of that, after we moved, after they supposedly did a police line. But he didn't just do it once. It was again and again and again. And they didn't take him away.
No.
Why didn't they arrest him?
Why?
How many police officers were there in the end, do you think?
7 or 8?
6 or 7, would you say?
Yeah, 8 maybe.
8.
Yeah.
It took a long time to come though.
And so there were about 40 trans tragics, do you reckon?
Yeah, only 3 of them were very, very, very aggressive. 3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah.
There was only 3 or 4 that needed to be controlled. If they could have controlled those very few people leading it, the whole situation would have been diffused.
But it was a baying mob. They were cheering it on. So, you know, while there were 3 or 4, they were being cheered on by all the others. The ones that had the Labor T-shirts on, the union T-shirts, it was like they were just hysterical.
Shame on you! No one's listening anyway! No one's listening!
And with workplaces now and hiring and promoting, with all the diversity, so the DEI, the diversity, equity, inclusion, that's just so successful in every organisation that's ever put it in. There's so much evidence to show how much more productive and how much more staff cohesion goes on when you divide people by race and their sexual activity. It's not rocket science when you don't promote people on merit. But that entitlement then goes on to the hiring practice. I'm trans. You have to hire more diverse people. Well, I'm trans, so I'm going to get the job. I'm going to get that promotion because you need more of me representing the workforce.
And what they've got is they've been able to strategically place these people in positions of power because there's DEI in all organisations, in all government. So you get too many of them in these organisations, they completely take over and everyone else is stifled because of the power they have. And that's the problem with the media, the editors that are DEI placements.
Yes.
And there are journalists that would love to report on this, but if they put it to their editor, they're knocked back. The only time an editor will accept it is if it makes us look bad.
Absolutely. But the scariest thing for me is that they've put it in the judiciary, which means if you are successful in getting a charge or a case brought to court, and you go in there with an open heart that our system of law is going to be enforced fairly, and the way that it was supposedly written, the protections for women that were put into law, and now thanks to Labor and the Greens saying that, well, men can be women, and then you could go to court and have a trans activist placed in the judiciary. What chance do we have until all of this nonsense is removed?
They're calling men women in court cases.
Yeah.
The very place where it should be truth and honesty.
Especially if you've been raped. How...
Yes. They were raped with her penis. It's just beggars belief. It really does.
So do you think there are quite a few trans activists in the police?
I think there are. I think the ones
you need to do, Leah, is place a DEI in one or two high enough positions, and the whole police force is corrupted.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
It's like everywhere else. Even if they don't agree, they're too scared to say anything. And this needs to stop. This is going to absolutely destroy.
And we've seen what they do. We speak against them. We experienced it on Sunday. They've just been waiting for so long to attack us like that. And it was with fake approval of an NOI that gave them the ticket to march in and do what they did. That NOI was never approved.
No.
The police don't have the powers to approve an NOI.
Even if it wasn't approved, they have no qualms about just turning up. If we submitted an NOI and it didn't get approved, we wouldn't have the event.
Yeah. Yeah. But they're going to turn up anywhere that we are.
Yes,
and
they will.
Wherever we go, they'll shut us down. They said that on the live feed, didn't I? Remember that?
And they literally shout out, shut the fuck up, go home. Why aren't you with your kids? Your kids probably hate you.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me because I've heard it so many times. But the fact that these people can dictate to us, fully grown adult women, where and when we can or can't speak.
I tell you what really upset me last Thursday when that police officer that I was speaking to, when she raised the voice and accused me of yelling abuse down the phone, I rang Kaylee because it really threw me, because I thought we've had pretty good experiences with police. Like since we moved to Queen's Gardens Park, the police have been quite good. And I know there's corruption everywhere, but to have a police officer lie, like when I was on the phone, and make out that I was yelling abuse down the phone, and I rang Kaylee because I was just gutted that a police officer would do that, would lie straight to my face. And I knew that everyone in that area would think that I was yelling abuse at her. I don't, that's not me, that's trans activists, that's the way they behave. They yell and abuse and throw a tantrum. And then I thought, are they telling the trans activists what our movements are? Do they really need to watch what we're doing, where we're going, if they've got someone within the police that's telling them? That's my concern.
Well, I think everybody should be concerned, whether it's, going to your doctor, like what recently happened overseas with KJK. You'd be worried about your medical records. If you make a comment when you're filling out the forms, which I've done multiple times when I've had X-rays, and there's a stupid question on there about your gender identity, and so far I've never come across anybody in a medical setting who has, been wearing a rainbow badge or anything like that. They've all just been very based women. But anything, whether it's your child's school records, your medical settings, the workplace, your address, what car you drive, registration in transport, these are all privacy and safety issues that can all be affected by having these activists being promoted in the workplace. It's a real concern.
Yeah.
But I just want to add that we had some good news today. So it was a bit of a win. I got a call from a senior sergeant, and she was lovely. And we spoke about, she wanted to talk about the events of what went down on Sunday, and they've given us a commitment to increase police presence, so this doesn't happen again. So that was unexpected. I don't think any of us expected that sort of thing to happen, especially after the events of Sunday. But it was really nice to get that call. But we also know that the trans activists will just...
Yeah.
But at least we'll have police there to hold the line. And it's so good having you, Kaylee, with all your experience. And you look like the Secret Service on Sunday.
You would have done a better job than that head of the Secret Service overseas.
Yeah, so it's really valuable to have Kaylee and all her knowledge and
Do you hold out much hope, Kaylee, for the next one with the police? Because I don't.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah.
It's
We'll
good
see.
news, and we've got it in writing, but when I see it, Queensland Police, got to pull your finger out.
I don't know. The older sergeant was, he seemed very reasonable, and so I'd like to take him on his word. But it's still just shocking to me that they didn't arrest him, that they didn't arrest that blue person.
I think it's being a little bit unfair for, like, who knows who of them were on the trans side, but you could see on the face of a number of them that they wanted to help, but they couldn't. So, and that clip you put together, Leah, where they're standing in a line and Blue Boy's doing whatever he does, and that policewoman, she looks at the police officer. That look was priceless. So imagine standing there, not being able to do anything, having your hands tied. So obviously there are police that would really enjoy seeing what the trans activists did, but I don't think there are a lot of police there.
I wonder what they would have had to have done for the police to get a reaction then.
Probably bash us senseless.
Well, I was pushed to the ground.
Yeah.
Bella was punched in the head. The police were continually assaulted.
So
what else would have worked? One of us to be killed, maybe? I don't know.
But I think it would take.
What I'd like the Australian public to really think about is, what are the behaviour effects of pumping hormones and blockers, cross-sex hormones into the opposite sex. This is what's happening. This is what all of this legislation is enabling, these entitled, narcissistic behaviours that with kids that are pumped full of drugs and grown men. And this is the result. This is what you're looking at, with the addition of, I think Leah pointed out on the day a couple of times, porn fetishes.
Oh, also the estrogen. Leah, what did you say? There's a syndrome?
Irritable male syndrome. Yeah, too much estrogen in a man. But the porn addictions, it's just walking porn addictions, these young men.
They are.
You don't dress like that if you're not watching porn all the time.
Right, yeah.
They just did not look like people who took care of themselves very well. I mean, their mental health was obviously on display.
The sign is when you're mentally ill is you stop looking after yourself.
Mm.
You know, you do become disheveled and dirty and smelly. And people around you start to notice that your behavior becomes erratic, and that is what these people are, but no one's telling them.
Yeah.
No one's helping him. Instead of helping him, they're pumping him full of hormones. Like, it's the government has a lot to answer for.
Yeah, absolutely.
On our tax dollar a lot of the time. Like, I think the Defence Force actually pays our tax dollars for, they hire those people and then they're subsidizing all of this nonsense. What other industries, how much of our money, our tax dollars, when we've got families sleeping in tents, you know, on the streets, when we don't have enough domestic violence shelters for women.
Oh, well, there's those now.
And they're using tax dollars for this type of nonsense, and creating really healthy, responsible citizens like what were on display.
And tax dollars for the police that does not protect women. Does not protect women.
One thing is also that the government could witness what happened to us on Sunday, but if they allow this to continue for too long, and it will fall, this ideology, I don't have any doubts it's going to fall. They're going to attack the authorities, the government, all that hate that they put on to us. When it starts to fall, they'll be attacking them.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, and I think the people who are going to be most upset are going to be like Elon Musk. They're going to be the families where their children have just been destroyed, their health, they're sterile, they're lifelong pharmaceutical patients, or the family has fractured, and they've affected their bodies and their mental health so much that their child is lost. Those people are going to be more and more, or they don't agree and the child is taken away, which has also happened here. So there's a lot that the Australian public do not know about because it's been suppressed in the media. But these things are going on. And just another plug for the Tickle versus Giggle case. That is probably the most important court case for Australian women, perhaps
globally,
since we got the vote.
But it's also important globally.
Yes.
Into this case, when it's going to have an effect right around the world. And here we have Australians that have no idea what's going on. And that's how tight the media is in not reporting the truth with this issue. It's astounding if people just understood what's going on.
Sorry, Sue.
No, that's okay. You go.
I also, just had this unfortunately flashing image of that big burly, disgusting sweaty blob with his fake boobs. And it also made me think of something else that's currently going on in Australia, and that is, the male breastfeeding, the male chest feeding. So that's another thing that I think the public probably aren't aware. They probably, again, think that that's just some type of insanity that's happening overseas. No. We're up there competing for first place in this madness around the world.
The Australian Breastfeeding Association endorses men breastfeeding babies. Like I say, we're just a group of women who have seen what's going on, and we've seen it, so we can't not do anything. The more and more people that see this insanity, the quicker it will be over.
But they have to see it, and they all have to speak out. If everyone spoke out, what could they do? They can't sack the entire workforce, because we know the public.
That's right.
It's us, because we get out there and we talk to them. We get thumbs up. Even when we did the Queensland Children's Hospital a few weeks ago, and medical staff come out, and there was one, either a doctor or a nurse walked across the road and gave us the thumbs up. So, and they're being silenced. But when they see us doing it, they love to see us out there, but we can't do it on our own.
Yeah.
No.
Well, anyone who's around Brisbane, come to our next one.
Yes, please. And we're not all from the same cloth. So we come from all across the spectrum. We are all different ages. There's people with all different types of political or religious or not religious beliefs. None of that matters. We're just all there for safeguarding. So whatever you personally hold dear for your values, we absolutely respect that. We stand side by side, and whatever our differences are in our personal values, that is all put aside. We never get into that. This is just about safeguarding. We want our single-sex spaces back in Lower. We do not want men in any sports, in any girls' sports at any level, from right down to the youngest child, right up to professional sports. We want safety back in society, and we want police to look after women. We want police to look after the actual vulnerable people in society. All of this suicidal nonsense, higher rate of suicide, that is all an absolute lie. The vulnerable people are still the same vulnerable people they have always been. But women and the demonizing of women and the sexualizing of children, it's going to stop. More and more people are going to find out what's been happening in the schools, what's happening in the hospital wards, and what's happening on your taxpayer dollar.
Yeah. All right, well, like I say, come along to the next one, and let's take the police at their word and hope that we'll get some more protection next time.
So that's the 25th of August, Sunday the 25th of August.
Yeah. All right then.
Okay.
All right, well, thanks for coming to chat, ladies.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Bye.
All right.
See you guys.
Bye.